Well, my name is Vanessa Sandham, and I live in a town in central New Jersey called Pennington, New Jersey. And I have two sons.
Well, when I first started, I was only like 9 years old, so I was really young. I didn't know much about it. My mom kind of just said, we're going on a trip to help other kids.
I mean, I'm not going to claim I was some 11-year-old who's like, I'm going to go out and save the world. Starting Global Volunteers was my mom's idea.
You worry a little bit about, can I, as this mom, take two young sons and a friend on all these trips, and we were really concerned about making sure that the organization we went with was experienced and as I said, established. And fortunately, Global Volunteers was. I had a lot of trust in them and the program and in the amount of training that they give, and the fact that they build really solid teams is one of their emphasis, to creating a team out of all the volunteers. At the same time, they work really hard in making sure that the experience is something that contributes a great deal to volunteers' lives and also the community's lives. So I was comfortable that I'd be in good hands. The second trip we took was to a very different place. It was in Ecuador. It was 9,000 feet up, very close to the equator, and it was working with severely disadvantaged kids. A lot of the kids had cerebral palsy, came from just very difficult backgrounds.
And just very, very poor children, just kind of helping teachers, keep them in line and whatnot. That was a very, very powerful trip.
I was still pretty young at the time, so my job was to work with the babies that were there, and a lot of them were abandoned. For me, my job was easy. Every time I walked into where all the babies were, the lady who I worked with was always like, just play with the babies, that's all you have to do.
The third trip, which was to Costa Rica, in the rainforest up in Monteverde, and that particular group, that was a completely different experience. There we were working with a women's cooperative, and they were actually, the women had built a building where they were selling the arts and crafts that they had made, and they were doing really well. And we were, all the women in our group, really proud of the women there because they were able to make a business out of things that they did on a normal basis anyway. And then a lot of us were doing construction work. We built a sidewalk, made our own cement, which was the first time we've ever done that.
It was actually very interesting because we built this little path, and in this most recent year in Ghana, we talked to somebody who had been there after us, and I'm like, hey, did you notice this path? And she's like, yeah, we use that path a lot. So, that was actually kind of nice.
We decided to go to Poland, in the mountains of Poland, and there we were working with kids who were using, again, English as a second language, and it was a summer camp. And so the kids were a lot older. They were teenagers, which was, I think, the first time that we'd actually worked with that age group. And my three boys had a great time because there were a lot of young girls there too. The teams actually work better when you have different age groups.
And that was definitely a lot of fun in that all the Polish kids were kind of my own age, so there was just a lot of hanging out with your own peers, able to relate.
And in all the previous years, we lived separate from where we worked, and so that was a lot different in Poland because we lived with the kids and really spent time, our whole days with them.
So from there we went to Greece, taught at again, English as a second language at I think it was a middle school, 7th and 8th grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. A little younger than what we had in Poland.
For me, this was one of my favorite trips out of all the trips we've done, mainly because I just really bonded with the kids that we worked with. I was maybe 13 or 14 at the time. We worked with 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, around that age group, just taught them English. I remember just the kids were great. They were so much fun to play with. And we were only there for a week. Usually, in all the other years, we had been there for 2 weeks. And somehow, even though we were only there for a week, I bonded the most with the kids in Greece than from all the other trips.
We decided to go to China. And that probably was, from the standpoint of experiencing a completely different culture, I think we all realized that not only were we going to a different part of the world, but we were going as teachers in a different part of the world.
We weren't teaching English teachers anything, because they already knew English. It's just that they'd never actually spoken English with somebody who was a native speaker. So it's just giving them a sense of, how English actually worked in practice.
When we started our global trip, there's always like a group thing you do where you say what your goals are or things you want to accomplish. And I'd always see these vendors on the street, selling fried bugs, fried wasps, fried bees. And just joking around, I wrote down, I want to try some fried bugs. One night we went out as a team to a pretty fancy restaurant, and Hudi, our team leader, kind of gave me a little funny look when we were ordering. She was ordering in Chinese, so obviously I didn't understand anything that was going on. And then before I knew it, I just had a huge platter of fried maggots, bees, and wasps in front of me. And Hudi kind of smiled and said, "There you go, you have your wish, but you got to eat it since it's one of your goals."
This time we went to Brazil. We went to a town in the northeast portion on the water, a town called Salvador.
That definitely might be my top year, Brazil, without a doubt because of the team.
We had a team, again, that had a lot of younger people in it, so it was a vital, vibrant, and very energetic group of people who were there.
You can't underestimate how important having a good team is to your experience, and if you have a great team, it'll be unbelievable, truly unbelievable.
It's probably my favorite trip out of all the trips we've done. So we worked with kids in cancer support homes, so all the kids had cancer, it was really heavy stuff.
We worked with in the hospitals, helping in the areas where they were giving treatment, chemotherapy, to some of the other buildings and other organizations that actually helped families get through the whole long process of chemo.
I remember that trip was fun because it was just fun all the time. Fun while you were working, fun when you had free time because the other group members were great. So that was a great trip, one of my favorites.
We went to Africa and to Ghana, and here we were out so far out that we couldn't even get the web. There was no web access, which was interesting for us. And there were a lot of different kinds of projects that Global Volunteers had us working on, and we had a lot of different choices.
I also did manual labor, like building a library, building a septic tank for a library in Ghana. And this one was just so much more rewarding because it was really hard work. It was tough work. It exhausted you. Got huge blisters all over your hands. It was the real deal, working hard for a couple hours straight. So it was really rewarding by the end of the trip to see how much we had accomplished. And then in the afternoon, we tutored kids, which was a good mix between, both types of work I've done in the past, like hard work and then working with kids. And the kids were a ton of fun.
I think the work was probably some of the more fun work I've done, because the people of Ghana were incredibly hospitable. I've been lucky to do a lot of traveling, and without a doubt, the people of Ghana are one of the most hospitable, if not the most hospitable people I've ever encountered. I love being a tourist. It's fun to visit countries on tour, stay in, good hotels, see some great sights, all that. It's fantastic, and I wouldn't knock it because I love it. But as a tourist, you will not get to know the people like you will through Global Volunteers. It's just not going to happen. Even if you're really kind of roughing it and really getting to know people and really kind of being ingrained, you're still a tourist, you're still a visitor. And yes, you're spending the time to learn about the culture, which I think people will certainly appreciate, but you're just not going to reach the level of interaction with the community that you get by working side by side with them.
And there's nothing better for young kids to realize that they can reach across a divide of language and be able to communicate.
I've done it for 8 years, and each trip has had something new and unique about it, but they've all been a ton of fun. And I'm really not just saying that to kind of be like, oh yeah, go global. It really is. Each trip has been a lot of fun.
Do Global Volunteers. If you're on the fence, definitely jump in and do it. And if you are concerned about, like worried about your comfort zone, not all Global Volunteers programs are equally challenging. But it's not crazy or really, really scary, don't worry. It's fine. They take great care of you.